What's happening, guys? Welcome back to Humble Billings. This is the Honest Recruitment Podcast. In the hot seat today, we have a very, very special guest, Hishem Azzouz. Well, I mean, I don't really think you need an intro, bro, to be fair. I mean, if you have been living under a rock, in recruitment especially, I'll tell you a bit about Hishem. So, Hishem is the charming host of the Recruitment Mentors podcast.
Yep.
In recruitment, I mean, you're actually one of the inspiring people that why I started Humble Billings myself. I mean, we'll discuss that in a bit, but I think I dropped you a message, didn't I, when I had the idea of starting this podcast. And I thought you'd be like, no, fuck off, I've got my own. But no, you're all for it, which is great. Nice to see you now in the hot seat. I'm founder of Hector as well, which is the all-in-one training platform powered by current top performers, which is another thing that we'll dive into around the top performing element side of things. So how are you, bro?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. Like I said, I think how I remember you describing the podcast that you wanted to do was, I want to speak to people that literally lived in their car for 3 months, worked in recruitment, turned it all around. Yeah. But nah, like always, like the podcast has been such a great thing that I started. It's been a big part of my career for the last 5 years. So I always like champion people starting one, because I think it's really enjoyable, and two, I think it can help a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I did say that actually, because I think the word humble, I wanted to sort of get people.
I think it's a great name, by the way.
Yeah.
Humble Billings, that's decent
yeah,
name.
I think that. Yeah, you are right. I think the original idea was to like get people who have like been like homeless and now like millionaires, but it's quite hard to find people like nowadays. Unless what's your Richard Branson? Give us a shout if you want to come on. He was homeless, wasn't he? He's a humble guy. But yeah, I mean, before starting off, like I said, it was a real big inspiration for me. Like when I started recruitment, I was the one that said to my MD at the time, like, guys, like, I want to go and see Hishem. He's got this podcast, this live event in London. And I think I actually ended up getting like the outro sort of video where it's like the sort of promo video at the end. And I had one too many beers. I was like talking about how great the chocolate was in the venue. And it was nice chocolate, bro. And it was a great time as well. And I think that was the key point in my recruitment career where I actually thought, wow, like networking events and speaking to people, building relationships, it's so much more valuable than just being on the phone. And I think, I got to thank you for that, for creating that platform. So you should be proud, bro. It's a big thing.
No, yeah, for sure. Like you don't know where these things like can end up. Like I started the podcast when I was in recruitment on a mobile phone. I used to do it when I got home at like 6:30, 7. Like I didn't know what it would become. Yeah. But I think it's having the courage to start something is what it's all about. Yeah. Which is why always going to champion other people doing that. It's so many people talk about doing things but never actually end up doing it. But you're in the thick of it right now. You're talking about continuing to improve it, creating your own studio space. So like you've taken action.
Yeah, and I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm literally just winging it. I said to you before, like I've hardly prepped. I wrote a few questions. I'm going to elaborate on a lot of them, and I'll probably continue to do that because it's just the way I roll. But yeah, I mean it's exciting because I know that obviously with you having a big platform yourself, you have mentioned you have been on the other end of a podcast before. Whose was that again?
There's a guy called Mark Whitby that has a podcast called the Resilient Recruiter Podcast.
Nice, cool. So this is like your second time sort of being on the other end?
Yeah, I think I might have done like 1 or 2 others, but yeah.
Yeah, cool. Super exciting anyway, isn't it? Sort of like to be on the other side of it anyway. So diving into things, as always, Hishem, I always like to sort of rewind the clock, right? Okay. So before sort of recruitment, before the podcast, like let's talk about actually your personal recruitment journey. Like how did you end up getting into like you're doing like insurance recruitment, was it?
Yeah, so Pavilion? I had no fucking clue what I wanted to do. Yeah. Went to college. I'd turn 30 this year, so I'll like you'd probably be too young to know about like EMA. Yeah. But anyways, like my age, you used to get paid £30 for like your attendance. I think it might have been £30 a week. It might not have been. I can't remember. Anyway, you used to get paid to attend college. Okay, so for this first 2 years, I did like AS law and shit like that. Was terrible at it. Like found it really like hard to be engaged in, doing exams and stuff like that. And then I did another year at college, quite frankly, because I could just do another year, get EMA at that time. When I was that age, mate, you could get like an Xbox game for 30 quid, mate.
Wow.
Swear down. So like, I mean, I was born in 1993. I'm not talking about like ages ago, but still, like, I just remember it. So I was like, what can I do? Another year. Ended up doing a course on plumbing. I did a plumbing. I did a plumbing course. Now one of my best friends is like, that's his business. Like he's a plumber.
Did you do it together?
Yeah, I did it together. So I was like, you know, another year at college, can carry on like fucking about, not have to take life too seriously. But yeah, so I did that, passed that, and then my mate is still doing plumbing now. But I had no clue what I wanted to do. So what ended up happening for me was doing like the odd job. Like I think I was working at Domino's delivering pizza.
Nice.
Balling.
On a bike, in a car?
Nah, in a car, yeah, in a car. So did that, and then had a lad's holiday in Magaluf. Yeah. Loved it.
Spent your whole wage.
Yeah, spent my whole wage. Loved it. And then I was like, I'd love to do a season here, the classic thing. So I then did 2 seasons abroad in Magaluf, and that's where I then learned how to sell. And that's like where the whole sales thing started, because I got a commission-only job in my first season. I went out on my own. I went with like these companies where you get like 4 week like place to live. Yeah. You go with like a cohort, like there's another cohort of people that are on their own, and then it's down to you to get a job. So I did that on my own. Then I got a job selling bar crawl tickets for a company called Carnage, and that was commission only. And like at the start of that, I'd never done sales before. I didn't even know it was like a thing. I was fairly like confident in myself. I could speak to people, but that was entirely different to like sell something. So yeah, I had commission only job, and that's where it all started really. Because at the start, I was terrible. I had to stop people on the street. I had to sneak into hotels, knock on people's doors, walk into their room, sell them something, stop people on the beach, like try and just stop them and get money from them, right? And it was hard. I was shit scared to do it at the start, but then by the end of the season, like I was decent. Like I was good at it. I had my pitch nailed down. I had the confidence to go up to people. So then ever from that time, I was like, I want to do sales. And I didn't even know that was an option. So I then went into, I then got a job in a call center doing insurance sales, selling car insurance, did that, then went back for another season, then came back, did insurance sales for a bit more, then went into like a smaller like insurance brokerage selling convicted driver insurance, did that for like a year and a bit. Then I got into insurance recruitment, but I actually wanted to get into recruitment because I was like fully committed to building a career in sales. Up until that point, I would say that all the skills that I had were like transactional sales. Like if I didn't close Callum on that call there and then, I wasn't getting the deal. So I had to get really good at building rapport in a short period of time, closing, and then I was like, how else can I improve my overall sales skill set? It was working in an environment where the actual sales value was like higher. Yeah. The actual deal value was higher. It was more consultative. It was a longer sales cycle. And one of my friends went into recruitment, and then I felt like from what I understood about recruitment, it could give me those skills, and I wanted to get into it. So then I went into insurance recruitment.
And do you think that? So how long is a season? Is that?
So I went from like April, March, like April, May to September, end of September.
Wow. So that like face-to-face sales is like. Probably really upskilled the commercial aspect of it, like face-to-face, like confronting people, you know, in person is quite daunting for a lot of people.
Oh mate, like I was so scared I was so scared at the start. Yeah. Like stopping people in the middle of the street
on holiday as well.
On holiday, like, and let's be honest, like most of the time I was trying to stop good-looking women. Do you know what I mean? So it was like I was learning all of that on the job. I ended up becoming really good friends with this guy called Jamie, who started at the same time. So like I would be with one other person doing it. Yeah. But by like when you do so many reps, you get comfortable with it.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's what I learned to do. Like I then had a pitch nailed down. I had the confidence to literally just door knock on people's hotels' doors, go in. I'd then find myself pitch into like a group of like 5 lads, 6 girls, whatever at once. Then the good thing about it was instant gratification, because the way it worked was if I closed you, you'd give me €10 on the spot. So you give me €10, you pay €15 on the night. So that was the cool thing, was like your barometer of like that went well, it didn't, was either walking away with €10 or not. That was the sick thing about it. It was the hard thing about it, but also the sick thing about it, because there was like there was like nights where I always remember the best day that me and my mate had was we sold like 60 tickets in one day.
Wow.
We're buzzing with that.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
between
like
2 people as well.
yeah, mate, we're buzzing.
Yeah.
Because like I always remember we closed this group of like 15 like girls from like Leeds. They just absolutely loved it, and like we managed to, like, you have to work on these groups. It's funny, like we've got around them on around the pool. We're like just chipping away at the different groups, finding out who the ringleader is, like who's the person that
Like,
organised
really
everything.
targeting,
Yeah, you have to. That's what you learn,
The
mate. I learned
ringleader.
so much, mate. Like. But yeah, but from that moment, I was like, sales. That, like, I really enjoy this, like developing the skill set of sales.
Yeah.
So that, I'd like, yeah, I wouldn't change it. Obviously, it comes with everything else, you know, getting pissed, all that. But like, I had to fend for myself.
Yeah.
I was living at home, so I was living there on my own, like all that. So, yeah.
Nice, man. That's a story and a half, innit? I love that though. Yeah, that's interesting. So let's go into that actual recruitment then. So insurance recruitment was your first ever recruiting job. Like, how was that?
It was hard. Like I found it really difficult because I was one of the top performers in this like insurance brokerage. Back to myself, went into insurance recruitment. I went into like a small business outside of London. So it was in a place called Haywards Heath, which is outside of London, a bit up from Brighton. I did the regional markets. My average deal size was like 5.5 to 7 grand, so not huge at all. And I enjoyed insurance, but that's looking back. Like, I enjoyed insurance, but I definitely would again pick a market that I'm actually genuinely really curious about, or like enjoy. That's like, looking back, I did find that difficult because I'd find myself dealing with, you know, people that you can build relationships with. It's great, but oftentimes weren't overly inspiring. being honest, but it was hard. My first year was really difficult. I just found it, the bit that I found hard was I went from like a really transactional environment to then working on, you know, jobs where it could take a couple months to, you know, to do the deal.
Yeah.
And that's what I really had to work on.
The longevity of it.
The longevity of it, managing the process. So that's what I had to get really good at. And I also was like building a patch from scratch. The company had a good reputation. They're still going now. I had a really good relationship with the guy that still runs it. But like, I was doing the regional markets, particularly Kent, and we'd done bits and bobs, but I was ultimately like building it from scratch, and that was difficult.
It's hard in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. So that I found it hard. Like the business development, I found hard. It's just, again, like you just have to like throw yourself at it.
Yeah, I think there's a tip in there though as well, Hishem. Like what you said regarding, if you are to choose a recruitment job, like have to choose a market that you at least.
Mate, 100%. I think, I would. If I was to go back in time, I wouldn't change it. But if I was to like specifically choose a career in recruitment, I'd be very intentional about the market I recruit in. Am I like genuinely curious about the market that I'm recruiting in? Because I'm going to hopefully find the people more interesting. I'm going to find the conversations I have on a day-to-day more interesting. You know, is it in an environment where the average deal size is like decent, a salary is decent? Because that's what I've continued to learn, is like I was doing placements of that size, and then now with the journey that I've gone on, like doing, I don't know if you agree with this, but doing you know, placements where it's 15, 17, 20 grand, maybe even more, in terms of like what's involved, it's very much the same.
Yeah.
It's not it's not massively different at all, really.
Yeah. Sometimes it's true actually. Sometimes, like, you know, if it's like search or something, it can take like months. Sometimes it could take weeks within, if it's like contingent or retained, it can be slightly different. But I definitely agree in that. It again depends obviously what percentage terms you work at and stuff like that. What would you? That's a quick question for you actually. In terms of like, what do you think about contract and perm? Like in terms of like their earning potential.
Probably not, like, I wouldn't say I'm like well positioned to comment on that, because I did perm recruitment. That's all I did for nearly 3 years.
As well. I've not actually spoken to a contract. I mean, I work with them in terms of like, I just wonder if anyone at home drops something in the comments, because that's like, that's quite interesting. We'll definitely dive into that with someone that's in
I think I spoke to someone the other day who like built a contract but from scratch, is now in New York. We were just chatting because he was talking about the podcast and coming on it and stuff, and he felt that contract recruitment is harder.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot more fast paced, isn't it? Like, you know, I just was. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I know Steve Gast. He did contract recruitment and like, you know, top biller, and like I spoke to a number of contract recruiters just like when you know, they've been in my pipeline, and then, you know, the prospective candidates or whatnot. And even just from what they say, it seems to be a different ball game to perm. I'm just wondering what the, you know, the financial margins will look like. But yeah, you can definitely.
Well, I wouldn't be able to. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to comment.
We'll dive it on to the next thing then. So it was Hoxha Media. That was your next role, was it? A sales consultant.
Yeah. So basically, the market that I was in, like, so for me as a person, like, I was very open-minded to like, what can I do to get better in this job?
Yeah.
That was like very much my mentality. It's where the podcast came from, which I started when I was in recruitment. And I was like just so open-minded to anything that would help me in my job. So what I cottoned on quite early was like using LinkedIn, because my perception of LinkedIn before I got into recruitment was you use it just to get a job. But then obviously when you're in recruitment, you then realize how much of an important tool it is. So at the start, I just used it like anyone else, you know, sharing my jobs, not talking about much else, writing very bad emails. Like you just have to learn just by doing. But then because the market that I did, there was maybe like one or two other companies that had been doing it for like ages.
Yeah.
And what I sort of cottoned on to quite early was, even though I'd been doing it for less time than these people that I was coming up against, online, like visually, they looked exactly the same as me, in the sense that like what they're sharing online, their content, they're just sharing stuff about their jobs. Like if you were to just look at both of our profiles, yes, I've worked less time, but I'm really passionate about the service that I deliver and all these things, as it seems like they are, but we literally look identical. There's nothing to say like I should pick Hishem over those guys. So I just made the decision to try and use LinkedIn differently. So I ended up, again, I don't know what compelled me. I'm just someone that's willing to take action and like try things. So I just started to share content. I started to talk about what I was doing in the market, and what I tried to relay was the things that I was saying on the phone. So when I was saying to candidates and clients that, you know, I really take the service I provide seriously. It's why we charge this. This is what we do. We're passionate about the industry. I used to work in it. Now I do this. Like all the things I was saying on the phone as to why Callum should trust me and give me a shot over my competitor, I was then just communicating online. Because my idea was, if I'm saying that on the phone,
how many other people are saying that?
Yeah. But then like I reach out to you, and then I can communicate those things by just online without us speaking. Then I thought it was a no-brainer. So I just started to share more content, and like this is how early it was. I then started sharing videos, but you couldn't post videos on LinkedIn at that point.
So where were you? Where
I had to upload it to YouTube.
Ah, okay, and then sort of like trying to drive activity too.
And then like share it. So like it's proper early. But the reason why I'm sharing this is because I really started to invest in my personal brand, and then what I started to recognize was people were starting to come to me, and I had people in my industry say, "Oh yeah, like I've seen your videos, all that," and I was like, "This is a no-brainer. Like this is helping me stand out against my competitors." So I really believed in it, and it had an impact on my desk. So then, one of the first people that I spoke to. So the podcast that I started it was called the Recruitment Rollercoaster Podcast. Before I made it a podcast, it was a blog. That's how I started it.
Okay.
I used to reach out to recruiters and say, how interested would you be in answering these set of questions? I have it because I want to help other people in the industry and hopefully inspire more people to choose recruitment as a career. And then I would send you the questions, you'd reply, and then I would like do it as like a blog basically. So one of the early people to do that was Sean, who started that business.
Sean Anderson,
yeah. So I then connected with him. He obviously saw that I was sharing content. Their whole business was like, you know, helping recruitment companies not be so reliant on outbound activity to grow. And it was all about inbound marketing. So yeah, we built a relationship. He mentored me for a bit, and then there was an opportunity to join him as his first sales hire, move up to London. And I thought, worst case scenario, I'll just go back into recruitment. So joined him, took a pay cut, and then joined them and worked with them for like just over a year. But I felt like that was so much longer. Like it was a fully pledged startup, but we did so many different things, and I was just like then just catapulted into this world of recruitment. Because then our target audience was was recruiters and recruitment companies, no longer insurance companies.
Yeah, and then you also got that like sort of upskilled then on the marketing front of things as well.
Yeah, and then that continued. They helped continue build my podcast, continue to build my brand. That was one of the main reasons how I managed to, hit my sales targets, was leveraging my brand, and then it's just like continued from there.
Love that. Yeah, I like that a lot, because you've got the recruitment conditions factor there, and then like I said, meeting Sean, and then obviously through your own activity, through your own passion of building the brand, obviously got recognition.
Yeah.
So you've sort of got like two sides to the coin there, which have like collaborated quite nicely. So let's talk about your branding a bit more. So like, 34k followers now, LinkedIn, which it's pretty good, right? I think in terms of like your recognition as well, like the engagement is high. I can imagine your impressions are through the roof. Like, you're the number one person that I see when I started recruitment, just through connecting with no one. Like, imagine Callum sat there just starting to sort of learn recruitment, and I'm on LinkedIn, and you're the first thing that comes up on my screen, which is probably the likes of most people have probably seen your face. Like, how did you build that? Was it through consistency, like the idea generation? Like, just walk me through that sort of journey.
So it started when I was in recruitment, as I said, and I was just doing it. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like, at that time, I was big into like Gary V, stuff like that. Like, I was very
Gary V,
I was very entrepreneurial. I just always liked the idea of, like, that's what I loved about recruitment. Was it is like the cliche thing. It's like your own business within the business. Like, I really liked that. So it all started there, where I just got comfortable with the uncomfortable, which was like sharing content. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just trying to learn what was working, what wasn't. So that's where it started. It most certainly wasn't perfect. It was like classic, like cringy things, like happy hump day, like if you're thinking about this at work, like all the classic stuff.
Yeah.
And then I just sort of, by doing that, you figure out like what gets more engagement, what doesn't. That is a big thing when it comes to just marketing as a whole that I've learned. It is mini experiments. Like, you just have to be willing to put stuff out there. You have to be willing to experiment, so you can, like, the more stuff you put out there, the better chance you're going to know of what works, what doesn't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of it started in recruitment, and it wasn't perfect at all. And then when I then worked at Huxo, we had to live and breathe what we were about. So that's when I was just creating content consistently, doing videos, sharing written posts. So I've just done it for so long now that it's just like a second habit to me, really. Or it's just a habit. I don't know, you can tell me what you think, but the main challenge that I found, because after Huxo, before I started now Hector, when I like went out on my own and started to support myself as my own business, I started like a training business, which was all around personal branding. So I would sell that. Like, I built like a bit of a training course around helping Callum, who was like shit scared to post anything, to posting consistently and like generating opportunities from that. So I'd sell that to individuals, work with individual recruiters, or I'd like go into companies. So like, I always used to try and understand what was holding people back, and oftentimes it is people not knowing what to say. That's what I find.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, when I started sort of trying to build a bit of a personal brand, I scrolled actually through the other day of my old posts, and literally had to like grit my teeth a bit. Like, it was really cringy, like it was. But I'm in a decent position now. Almost 2 years in recruitment. I've got I believe a pretty personal brand. I've got a podcast,
I feel like there's like, when I see your content, it really comes across authentic, and that's what I always try to be. Like, I want people to feel like if they would maybe engage me online or have a perception of my brand, that you're the same person if we were to meet, for a drink or to meet or whatever.
But then again, that was trial and error for me. But actually, I don't like the word trial and error. It's more test and learn.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in error, right? It was complete test and learn. And like you said, it's that like mini experimentations constantly. What works, what doesn't. And like, don't get me wrong, there was times where I jumped in front of a camera and was just like trying to... Actually, fuck that. Talk about clients. I used to speak to clients on the phone and like really try and put on this, articulate voice.
Yeah, so did I.
Pretend I was someone I wasn't. And they could just sniff right through it. Like, it was pure bullshit. you know, not got the biggest vocab in the world, and I was like sort of twisting up my words and stuff like that. Sometimes like I think before I speak, and I was just getting all muddled up. And I just found when I was myself and more genuine, people were buying into that. And I think one of the things I remember as well on the branding side of things, and this whole podcast as well, is you just said something which resonated with me. It was just sort of like just do it, you know, and use it as like a BD tool. Because I was like saying to you, Hishem, like, you know, I've not got a lot of time to be doing this or doing that, and you were just like, it's part of your job. Like, you know, even you talking to me then about what you're doing, it's just like machine like. It's not a second hand thing. It's just a part of what you do.
Yeah.
And it's almost just in your nature now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I found people really they have no idea what to write about, or have no idea like what to say, which can hold them back. I think obviously people are concerned about other people's opinions, which I understand, and it can be scary sharing content if you don't really share. But I think for anyone that is struggling with sharing content, like you just have to use it as a tool. That view it as a tool. Sorry, that was my perception. It was like, as a recruiter, what can I do to be perceived as the recruiter that you need to be speaking to if you're like X person? That's how I viewed it. It was like a tool I can call people, I can email people, I can text people, I can also share content that these people would find interesting.
Yeah.
So that needs to be your perception. It isn't about, I don't really use social media or that. That's fine. I was that person. I don't use Instagram. I have it. I don't use it. I wouldn't say I'm like a social media person. For me, it's a tool. Yeah. And I think as a recruiter, especially if you're listening to this, why would you not have as many tools in your arsenal as possible to help you stand out, to help you, build trust and credibility with the people that you can help in their careers, or help with their help companies. Yeah. So the often things that I found to help people with that, which might be useful, is one, just understanding that good content is content that's made that makes people feel like it's relevant. So like that's the first thing to understand. You're not going to have all these unique ideas, or you'll most likely talk about things that maybe other people talk about, but most of all, good content is content that's relevant. So recruiters are so well positioned to share content because you speak to your target audience every single day. That's your job. So you need to understand the candidates that you speak to, you need to understand the clients that you speak to. It's your job to do that. You need to understand what keeps them up at night. You need to understand what drives them. You need to understand why they do what they do. So you have, direct access to what these people care about. So the exercise that I used to do with people is, firstly, we need to understand who your target audience is, what they care about, what they're driven by. So I would get people to, work with me on understanding what that looks like. We think about how old these people are, where they hang out, their academic background. And then the most important things that we go into is what are their biggest challenges, not just professionally, but also personally. So when you're speaking to candidates, like what is keeping them up at night? Why, what are their biggest frustrations, their biggest challenges in the workplace, maybe at home? Because you'll be hearing about these things. And then likewise on the client side to do that, what are their biggest challenges? Is it, keeping their investors happy? Is it, dealing with people that don't want to come back into the office? I don't know. But you need to think about those people. So that's the first thing. And then once you've thought about those people, you might have a bit more clarity on what good content looks like. Because if it's like communicating to those people and you feel like it should resonate with those people, then I would view it as good content. Then like the easiest way to like tap into like ideas is it's all about your conversations.
I was about to say that. I was about to say use your own case studies as well.
Yeah, it just comes from your conversations. It's like any like common bits of advice that you get asked for, that's a content post. Anything that you find yourself repeating yourself consistently, that's a content idea. Because if one candidate is asking it, there's probably other candidates that are thinking the same. So hopefully that could be helpful. It would be a good exercise to think about who you're trying to talk to, who you're trying to communicate to. And then on the ideas thing, I think it's just worth to note thinking about your conversations and your daily conversations. The other thing that might be helpful is, like, I've done this recently, it's quite helped me, is like there's so many different things you can talk about. You can also maybe break down the types of things you like to talk about in like pillars. Yeah. So my pillars, I'd probably say, is like entrepreneurism. The podcast obviously is a pillar for me. Recruitment, mindset, So like now I know these pillars, then it's like every week, what can I talk about under those pillars? It just makes it a bit more easier rather than every day being like, right, what am I going to post today?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, a few different things there, but like normally it is the ideas thing. But yeah, hopefully that'll help. And then the whole goal is you're never going to be as competent as the people that you place and as competent as your clients, what they do. You don't get paid to do that. But the idea of your brand and the idea of your content isn't it, Callum the recruiter in tech has all the answers and like you're talking about technical testing and whatever. Like you're not meant to know all the answers to that. However, you are well positioned to facilitate a conversation around that.
Yeah.
So like what I always just say to people is like your goal with your brand is to be like the smoking area for your industry. So I'm at an industry event, I go into the smoking area and like I'm just hearing this chat and we're talking about different things. You just need to be that place. Like I come onto Callum's profile and he's highlighting the things that I'm thinking about because I'm his target audience. And you're talking about things that I was discussing with my colleague. And that's why getting your ideas from conversations and stuff is the easiest place. But the idea is, yes, Callum's a recruiter, but also he talks about things that I care about because he's bringing to life things that I'm thinking about, that I'm feeling, that I have opinions on. And you're like, I can go to your brand and get like see, other people's perceptions and like be that place.
Yeah, there's an emotional aspect to it, isn't there? And I think like one thing I used to do quite early on is I used to copy. I'm not afraid to say it. I used to go on to my target audience's profile, which in my case is pretty much any recruitment owner, and like sort of see what they're talking about. But I'd scroll quite a lot, and I'd go even up to a year, and I'd sort of like look at like old topics, and I'm not talking about counter offers or like you said about I can't remember what you said before, but yeah, like sort of generic LinkedIn posts. I was sort of looking for what like you mentioned, the smoking area is sort of my sort of place to play was in the comment section, and it might not even be on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's literally on websites and what testimonials clients have said about certain individuals or whatever it may be. It's just about like creating that spark. And I think one thing as well on personal branding and why I feel like I've done pretty well so far and will continue to do so is because I'm just constantly just trying to stem conversations with others. Like I'll always, shout out someone on the podcast that, commented on a post asking me to ask a question or whatever it may be. There's that element of like everyone feels involved, everyone feels like they know you, that genuine aspect of it. And I think when people are just like very robotic and, I see a lot of people in my office even today they're just like news articles about what's going on, and that's fine, right? But it's just like you literally ChatGPT now, let's use that for example. Like you can see a post when it's just been copied and pasted on ChatGPT, and I think that's just like a little bit lazy. If you really want to be generic and that's fine, but to be genuine, you need to it needs to come from the heart, it needs to be passionate, and it needs to be emotional. I think that's what I've done personally as well.
Yeah, you figure out by experimenting, you figure out what you like doing, what you like talking about.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just here chatting shit, and it's doing okay so far. So I think. Let's talk about like Azzouz branding then.
Okay.
Like, so what was that?
So that was the training. I come up with like a 12-week program that I would sell to individual recruiters or companies. I can turn people who don't know what to post about, are concerned about posting, that want to build their personal brand but don't know where to start. I can take them feeling like that, and by the end of the 12 weeks, they're consistently sharing content. They've got some wins along the way. They have a plan. They know who their target audience is, and they're set up to continue building their brand after the training. That was the idea behind it.
That was the idea, and that's almost like again just sort of pivoting towards what you're doing now, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
Everything's aligned.
It's been quite organic, yeah.
Yeah, like everything that you're discussing with me, it just seems to have just like, it's not like, I can tell that entrepreneurial Hishem is within you, because everything is just been like a ladder climb to the person you are.
Basically,
now.
Yeah. And it wasn't all intentional. It's just one thing led to the other, which I was just willing to take action on.
But that's the thing as well, like, just a little tip for people at home, just start. Like, you can't look at I mean, I did it. I was, you know, I get quite frustrated, right, at times because it's like I want everything, I want it now, and it's just about. My mum has this saying, it's just about laying a brick every day, and then bricks actually build the foundations, and eventually then you start to see the bricks come up from, you know, the trenches, and then you have a beautiful house, and then you can work on the interior, and then you've got your complex, so to speak. And I think that's what you've created now, and I'm sort of on the other end of that, being, you know, 2 years into my recruitment journey, really trying to build a personal brand inspired by you. So it's really interesting to obviously hear how you got to this position.
Yeah, it's just like you said, just it wasn't overly strategic, just one thing led to the other, but it all derives from just being willing to take action.
Yeah, willing to take action and risk as well, because I'm sure there's times where, have you ever felt like, am I doing the right thing, or I'm lost here?
Yeah, loads of times.
Yeah. Any stories?
I think, I mean, like my biggest challenge, like mentally, I'd say I'm like quite resilient and back myself mentally. But if there's anything like mentally that I struggle with would just be like the self-doubt. That can, I don't know why, that can just creep in sometimes, and sometimes that voice can be too loud. But I think the best way to quieten that down is like having evidence to point at, to go, no, like I've done this, or like, yes, okay, I'm a bit worried about this, but I went through that last time and this is what happened. But yeah, like the self-doubt that creeps in, like, for sure. But I feel like that's natural. Like when you're trying to move forward, you're doing things for the first time, you're doing things that you haven't done before, and you're trying to just keep moving forward. That comes with the territory. Yeah. Because you're not going to have all the answers. I think it's just important to not presume that you know all the answers, and that's what I've learned. It's just it's less about knowing all the answers or feeling like you have to know the answers. It's more about like understanding that you're not going to have all the answers and not presuming more than you know. Yeah. So
no, that resonates with me, because I think I struggle quite a lot with anxiety, but it does come from that self-doubt, because I'll sort of attach myself to a thought, and then it leads into another thought, and your thoughts aren't real, and I end up down this like train of just, you know, quite overwhelming scenarios in my head. What if that? What if this? Or should have done this better? Should have done that better? And I think one thing that I've really managed to keep myself in a box, so to speak, is just that element of what's happening in the here and now. You know, the present moment. What can I do here? Actually, you know, instead of thinking about what's happening outside this box and all these overwhelming thoughts, because that half the time is actually is false. They're just imaginative thoughts. It's like, Cal, you're okay, like everything's going well, like that self-doubt you have. But actually, let's like turn it on its head, right? Because I read a book, I can't remember his name, it was the guy who trained Kobe Bryant. He was his personal trainer. Relentless. What's his name? David or something.
I can't remember his name, but I know who you're on about.
Yeah, he was talking about like that self-doubt element. Actually, like, you know, most high performers actually have that self-doubt constantly, because it's almost like intrinsically they're trying to prove themselves wrong. Yeah. And it's actually then develops that like unwavering obsession and focus, which ultimately makes them who they are. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I like the quote that springs to mind for me is, I don't know if you come across his content, but I'm really into a guy called Alex Hormozy. I think he does some of the best content on.
Cool guy as well. Cool guy.
Yeah, so like I have it on my. We use like an internal tool called Notion, which I also use personally. So I have it on, I think it's on the sales page. The quote at the top of there is from Alex Hormozy, which is like, outwork your self-doubt. That like just keeps that simple for me. It's like if you do have, you know, that self-doubt and maybe the fear of losing it all, the fear of failure, whatever, like outwork your self-doubt. Like give yourself enough evidence to go, well, actually, I have tried my best here and I have done all these things. But I think from what you're saying, what's really helped me on my journey, and I definitely don't have all the answers, and like will continue to learn more about myself, and as I just go through this journey of life, is I really resonate with Stoicism. I don't know if you've come across that.
I've not. Talk to me about that.
So basically, the reason why that really resonates with me is basically a lot of it is around building this mentality of focusing on what you can control.
Controlling the controllables.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like just developing this mindset of only focusing on what you can control, and remembering like, so Stoicism is all about these different principles that there's all these philosophers like way back when, Roman times, were just way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
But like the principles that they live by still stand the test of time. It's things like focusing on what you can control, like not letting your emotions drive you, remembering that we all die. Like it's like a lot of that is around, you know, being present, only focusing on what you can control, and that's obviously easier said than done. But that's really helped me. Like my default is like, what can I control? So like you going on those train of thoughts of, oh, what if this, what if that? None of that you can influence, none of that you can control.
Yeah.
So coming back to, well, what can I do right now?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is like really freeing.
Yeah. No,
But it's also scary for people because it means you have to take personal responsibility.
Yeah, and accountability, and that's again.
And some people don't, unfortunately, in the world that we live in today, we like to point the finger.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is like, what you need to, like, for me, again, it just helps me in life. Like if I feel way better about being personally responsible, some people may not, but whatever, this is from Alex Hormozy as well, it really resonates. But when whoever you point the finger at, you give them power. So because you feel a certain way and you're pointing at your mum or your dad or whatever, you're giving them power. Who you point the finger at is who you give power. So you want to point the finger at yourself. You're giving yourself power. Could I have reacted differently? That was on me. I could have done that better. That's for me what helps me.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
Like you are, like you have to hold that accountability, but almost like use it as constructive criticism internally as well. And like you said, just having that like self-love, and I think you can never eliminate self-doubt. It's literally like a natural human instinct. Like every single person will have anxiety, some elements of depression. Like it happens day to day. Like it's literally, you know, something really tragic could happen. You're gonna feel sad. It's an emotion at the end of the day. You can't help that. But like you said, it's really interesting to hear that, like just focusing on what you can control has really kept you grounded. Yeah. So like diving more into this then, like you're a mental health champion, aren't you?
I feel a bit
what is
just
it
just to keep it real on that, like so the person that started that, Rhonda D'Ambrosio, like I had a really good relationship. I haven't spoken to her for ages.
Yeah, but that's
fine, I probably need to update that. I don't know, like the reason why I got behind that is, one, I'm always someone I enjoyed, like I really love learning about the mind and being a better person and growing. Like that's a big part of my journey.
But that's what I mean, even regardless of like you saying that, you know, you're not a part of it now or whatever, just talk to me about what that was and,
all right,
and
yeah,
why you did that.
Well, just like the reason why I wanted to get behind it was like recruitment's hard.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of young people work in that. So, you know, if I can do anything to help anyone that struggles with their mental health, or maybe feels like they lack certain tools that can help them better manage mental health, like there's like I'll get behind that all day long. And I also like have a lot of time for the person that started it, but I haven't done anything recently. I'll probably need to change that, but it's on there. But I just got behind that because I just know how many people struggle with their mental health as a whole, let alone in a recruitment environment.
Yeah, it's something I'm so passionate about. I actually, like, the reason I asked is because I'm genuinely quite interested about getting involved in something like that, or at least starting some sort of platform for that, where I don't know where I would start, but again, you know, I'm sure we've discussed previously, and I'm sure people have heard, but like with my immediate family, i.e. my dad, and you know, certain elements of other family members, like mental health has been a big thing and a big factor of my life. And I think I didn't know I was struggling with mental health until someone actually said, like, do you know, like, you know, you are struggling, and I was like, oh, and you sort of think about it, and there has been times where, you know, without that external support from partners, friends, work, you know, fucking having a great, you know, foundation in your business, having that touch points with your MD and that guidance where needed, not just professionally but personally, that's really helps me grow into a person. And I think, you know, what you're saying about really understanding your own mind is so important, because everyone's minds work very differently. I've learned that I have a different chemical reaction in my brain, that, you know, I have to stay grounded through, you know, certain daily tasks which most people wouldn't, and things like that. So that's something that I want to get involved in. So again, at home, anyone that's like sort of, you know, championing mental health, has some sort of training or anything, that I'd like to get involved 100%.
Yeah, for me, I like championing. I think it's great that more and more people talk about it. Yeah, I just like to talk
about a lot. It wasn't.
I like to champion like help, like what you're talking about there. I feel like, you tell me, but it's like you do, like self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, but
But a lot of people, that's like, that is a quite hard thing to develop, and a lot of people don't have self-awareness.
yeah, and I think as well it ties into emotional intelligence,
Yeah, of course.
because I can tell you're a very emotional intelligent person, and I think most good recruiters are quite emotionally intelligent as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like I feel personally the ones that I've spoke to are really really good at understanding emotional aspects of themselves and others. Like some people just can't read a room. Like what I mean. Like some people don't know when to shut up. I'm probably one of them at times, if I'm honest. But like, it's yeah. I have seen that.
But yeah, I champion mental health for sure. But for me, I want to champion like talking about things that can help you manage your mental health, and tools and habits. Like that's what I like to champion.
Yeah.
Because I think it is a fine balance, isn't it? And like, I've spoken to people that, it's great that we talk more and more about it, but that also makes space for people to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
That's what I don't like about it personally. Like, I've spoke to recruitment leaders who really lent into having mental health days and these things, which is absolutely key and important, but then people take the piss.
Yeah.
So I think it is a fine balance. I think, yes, we should be talking more about it, but let's talk about how, Callum went from feeling like that to then feeling like how you did. Like, what was you doing? What changed? Like, I want to talk about the tools and the habits that can help you, because I don't think it help. Yeah, I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
I know what you mean. Like, what, a mental health day? Let's also eat cookies and brownies. Like, what are you actually doing to help, these individuals? And I think there are now a lot of stories where, people are, it's a platform now, and I think we're in a world now where people sometimes actually do really want to, discuss how they're feeling and stuff, because there are support around that. But yeah, you can definitely end up in the wrong circle.
What do you mean?
In terms of like, I mean, some businesses will say that they support mental health, have these mental health days, but they're not, like you said, they're not channeling actual tools. They're not giving that one-on-one support. They're not listening, because, some people don't understand. If you're a business owner and you don't understand a female going through female issues, it's going to be quite hard for you to get on their wavelength and give them the support they need and guidance. Where I've just seen it and spoke with candidates that, one of the main things when I'm a rec to rec is sometimes it's that they don't feel supported, and it's not about professional work, it's not about progression, it's just about
as a person.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know what the ins and outs of that is. I'm not there myself. I wish I could be a fly on the wall so I could, give people more insights into that. But you do have to tread carefully sometimes of who you actually do open up to. I think personally. Yeah. Anyway, diving on to a more lighter note. So talk to me about Hector. What is it? Starting off, what is Hector? And you've rebranded a few times.
It started as, the podcast that I host is called the Recruitment Mentors podcast. Yeah. So when I started the business just over 2 years ago, it was called Recruitment Mentors. It just made sense at the time. Podcast was called that. The training business that we're building was called Recruitment Mentors. But like, in short, basically the main catalyst for it is I did the first ever like live podcast event in like November 2019, just before COVID, and we sold it out in like a day. It was like £10 per ticket, and 70 people bought a ticket. Now, prior to that, as we've discussed, I worked at a business called Hoxo Media. Our target market was growing recruitment companies. So I was attending like recruitment owner networking events, and I went to these different things. Now, during that whole entire time, I had my podcast, there's 1,000 people listen to it. So I was always curious why there wasn't more spaces for Callum, the up and coming recruiter, to go to get better, or to learn how to get better and learn from other recruiters. Because I had all these people listen to the podcast, but then there wasn't like events and things for you to go to. Yeah. It was mainly targeted at like people like Matt, your boss, right? Yeah. So when I saw, let's do like a live podcast event. I quite like the idea of that. Get people in the room. I think that sounds like a good idea. So when that whole experience went from like doing it, sold out very quickly, the event went really well, had really good feedback, I was like, why don't I create something like the players in the recruitment industry, like the Power Hive, which is Manchester centric, the Recruitment Network, these other groups, but just focus on Callum the recruiter, that wants to get better, that aspires to be a top performer. Because right now you can't go to something consistently if that's what you if that's important to you.
Yeah.
Then I started to put like a bit of a business plan together around what that looks like. There was an online element, but then with COVID happening, I was like, it needs to be all online. So the premise of it is, I don't know what your journey has been like, but my journey in terms of getting better at recruitment was basically failing forward and doing the job.
Yeah.
I got put on like a 2-day training course. That was the only training that I got, and it wasn't great. It was having to sit in a room for 2 days learning from someone that did the job over 10 years ago. The main way that I got better was being willing to look at myself in the mirror. What could I have done better? What could I have done differently on that call? And also then just being a sponge around the people that have been doing it longer than me. And for me, I just didn't understand why that was the only option, because there's so many people that have been exactly where you are today and are 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. I was interviewing those people. So why is there not somewhere that I can go where I can learn from other recruiters that are maybe a couple of steps ahead that can help me get there quicker? That was like the premise of it. So basically the idea around Hector and what it is now, it's an all-in-one training platform. As you said, the main thing that we're doing different is that it's powered by current top performers. So the only people that deliver training on our platform are current top performers,
Relevant,
that have been in the industry for a minimum of like 5+ years. We collect testimonials from their clients, candidates, colleagues. They're still doing the job, they're navigating today's challenges, so they're sharing what's working for them right now, whether it be on how to get more out of your candidate specs, how to get more out of your BD calls, wherever it may be. And we've just found that recruiters are so much more engaged in their own skill development when they're learning from people that are still doing the job. So we partner with growing recruitment companies that can't offer an internal training person, can't offer like a proper training program because they're small, they're growing, they're founder-led, their founders time poor, their billing managers are time poor. So we can plug into a growing recruitment company and help them reduce skill gaps in their teams. We can help them, help their billing manager get more time back whilst their team are getting better. Like, we're trying to bring a solution to growing recruitment companies that enables them to get more out of their people more quickly, and it's all done in like an online learning environment, all centered around recruiters sharing what's working for them right now. And the whole idea is we can we really believe we can change the perception of the recruitment industry. Like, if we have more and more people raise the standards, share what's working, how they deliver a great service, it can hopefully raise the standards collectively.
Yeah. How did that journey happen then? So like, how long have you had Hector for now? You founded it
just over 2 years. Yeah. So like, again, it's been quite organic, experimenting. Yeah. I have an idea. Do I think there's something in this? Let's see if people will pay money for it. I initially started with a group of 35 founding members who all paid £27 per month. I sold it directly to Callum, the recruiter, that listens to the podcast, that wants to get better. Is he going to be willing to part of his own cash to get better? Managed to do that. Then I worked with those people to get feedback. What do you think of the training? What were we missing? What could make it better? Then a couple of months later, the plan was always to then sell what we were providing to growing recruitment companies.
To actual companies.
Yeah, to actual companies. And then I then launched that with 8 original companies. You can get it cheaper. I want to understand, how we can make this better for you. This is how it's working at the moment. I worked with them. Then we come up with like an initial like offer for growing recruitment companies, and then it's just continued to evolve. So it's just like experimenting. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I've just been willing to take action, but at the like core of it, it's like, how can we provide a solution to this problem around a lot of people, don't get training in recruitment. A lot of people don't make it in recruitment. A lot of companies, carry people that aren't performing and don't have, many ways to help them get better besides just spending more time with them. So like, I'm really committed to trying to solve this training problem, and that's just derived from me experiencing that myself.
Yeah, I think a big thing is like that digital platform as well, because a lot of internal training is great, but then your own external training is key for individuals. So like, for me, listening to podcasts, that's how I learn. So it's really cool how you're creating this sort of digital training platform. Like that's massive, right? That's like, everything's digital nowadays. Like, you're not just putting yourself in the center of someone's office and going, oh, I'll help you do this, help you do that, because people do get pulled from pillar to post. And I think there's a massive gap in the market, and I've personally, met multiple clients, and they've all using Hector. And what's the feedback then from like the?
I mean, we're definitely not perfect, but like it's just hopefully just getting better and better. The biggest, like what I've really focused on is making sure if Callum, the recruiter, logs into our platform, that you leave that experience going. I'm glad that I did that, because I think a lot of people in recruitment, they've had poor and average training experiences. So I think that's what I really wanted to make sure that, like, most of the time, hopefully all the time, when you consume any training on our platform, you're like, that was decent, that was relevant, it was useful, it was practical for today's market. So that's what I initially like really focused on. But then what I've had to learn the hard way, like with any product, it's all about the implementation. So you can, like, one of the things that recruiters aren't good at is time management, is prioritization. So that's what we've really had to get better. So I'd be confident in saying that most people would say the training on there is good, but what we've had to get better at is making sure people then go, and my team use it. Because initially it'd be like, the training's really good, give them access to it, they'll use it. It doesn't quite work like that. So by simply saying, hey guys, you've now got access to training platform, use it when you can, doesn't work. So that's what we've really had to improve on, is like the process of, if we sell to Callum's recruitment company, we've really had to map out this process that gives us the best possible chance of it being used consistently in the first 90 days and beyond. And we have peaks and troughs, we're not perfect, but that's what we've really had to get good at. And that's been the continued journey, and that's like where we're really continuing to try and level up.
I suppose then, like the individuals though who pay out their own money,
we don't sell.
Oh, is
so
that
like,
not a thing anymore?
No, it's just to it's to growing. It's like to recruitment companies.
Yeah.
Because what we found is, sorry to butt in, what we found is, if Callum signs up, and we have no influence over your culture and the business you're in, you might only feel like you can use our platform on the weekend when you're out of the office because no one else has got it. Your manager isn't saying, Callum, it's really important to not only spend time doing the job, but taking a step back and spending time on things that can help you get better at the job. Like, if I have no influence over like your manager championing time spent on refining your skills, it's going to be a real uphill battle for us. So why it is just two companies or independent founders who have their own company, mainly two growing recruitment companies, is that, like, in order to successfully roll it out, like if I was to roll it out in your team, I'd have to have you bought in. We'd have to agree on how your team are going to use our platform each week. You'd have to agree a time with them they're going to use it each week in their diary, a safe space to learn. Like, you have to be bought in, your manager. So like that's a big part of it. So we have to, have influence of your culture, or at least have buy-in from the relevant people who are going to champion time spent on getting better at the job besides just doing the job.
And I think in today's market, there's very few people who actually just have apart from, like actual profound, L&D specialists, like most billing managers, hence the name, they're still fucking billing. Like I'm still billing when managing, and that time to sort of just, give the team their own time to learn, I think is a real big thing. But then also it's learning from market leaders right now, relevant people right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's multiple individuals. Like sort of consolidated into one platform. You don't get that anywhere else.
No.
And I think that's an amazing thing, because you can hop on a podcast now and just watch two people talking, but I can imagine you've got a big book of very, very good people, very, very good at what they do, and it's all in one fucking place.
Yeah, and like obviously because it's then training, we go into a lot more detail.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot more examples. Like that's what we've had to continue to get better at, like really going in the granular, into the granular, and make it as practical as possible.
Yeah. No, nothing but good stuff, but I think it's amazing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously comes with its challenges. It's not easy, but
so everything does though. But yeah, I think training in recruitment is one thing, which is it's not that great.
Well, a lot of people don't get training.
No, they don't. I mean, I didn't really get trained that much. Higher group, we're still going through a journey at the moment where we're learning of because you have to adapt, right? Markets change as well.
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
train someone up, and then they know the market goes to shit, and then you sort of forget about them.
Yeah, my thing, I don't know how you feel about this, but my thing is, I think too many people are expected to learn 100% of the time on how to get better, like on the job. And like what I say to people in my like sales processes, we just really believe it should be more like 80-20, 85-15. And this is what we're hoping Hector can help with, is that Callum the only way Callum is going to go from billing 200 grand a year to 400 grand a year is by doing the reps, is by doing it, is by getting better, by doing and understanding, you know, how to do things better, etc., etc. Like, you have to do the doing.
Yeah.
Right. But we're saying is that shouldn't, the only way that you're going to do that is by 100% of your time doing the job. So we're saying 80% of the time, the way you're going to get better performance-wise is by doing the reps. But we think there should be this other 15, 20% where you have time to basically enable yourself to get better at the skills that you need to get better at to get more out of the 80%.
Yeah.
That's what, like, that's, I mean, that just makes sense.
It
Like,
does make
what?
sense, yeah.
Because the thing is, when you're just learning 100% of the time on the job, that means you have to fuck up a bunch of client opportunities, candidate opportunities to learn how to not do that again. Whereas what we're trying to provide is a safe space to fail. You can learn, you can try things, you can fail in this environment, and the worst case scenario is you just get feedback from your manager on how to do it better, so you can then apply that to the live environment. That's just what I really believe in, and I feel like if there's more ways that people can like apply what they learn, have a safe space to fail, so then they can take those learnings and then apply it to the job, they'll get more out of it. That's like that's what we want to try and create, and I think hopefully that means there'll be more people that are performing better, get more out of what they put in, rather than always just having to like do more of the same thing, not maybe thinking about, could I be doing that better, could I be doing that better, and then getting the same results.
Yeah, I'll use a story for you. So, I mean, this is something that's personal to me. So it's like, you know, you sort of get trained in probation, right? Which is 3 months. And then it's like you're sort of in the deep end. And there's been, you know, other individuals who, you know, don't make it through that, and that's okay, because, you know, recruitment isn't for everyone. But I see it in generic recruitment that, you know, some people, even 2 years in, like still need training. They still need that checkup. So I've got a meeting on Friday to talk about, because we've got new terms that are being rolled out. So I'm doing a sort of a prep call with the L&D guy. And I remember thinking, like, I don't have to do this, but I'm fucking do, and I'm glad I am doing it, because it actually made me think, I'm so glad that when I'm moving towards a way where it's, you know, people who've been in the business years, that they still need training on new elements of the business. You know, if the market changes, they need upskilling, because there's, you know, I'll go into this in a bit, but relentless learning in recruitment is like #1 thing. Like it is, and like you'll never know everything, because the market changes all the time. And I think for you to put everything in one place, it's a great idea. It's obviously going well, and it will continue to do so. But yeah, like I see it a lot across the market. Like, people get neglected in recruitment, because, you know, especially these very fast-paced growing businesses which hire a lot of grads. They'll go in on a cohort, get trained up, and then they're in, and then the next load are in, and they're in, and then you have this high churn, and that's because of the lack of training. And then people get, you know, think recruitment's like this sort of, you know, and it is in some cases. Some businesses are, you know, hire and fire, but not all. And I think, you know, to my understanding as well, you're probably targeting them businesses which actually look after their staff and care, because they're going to be the ones who are going to pay for Hector, right?
Yeah, they were like, they got to believe in investing in their people and stuff. So hopefully we can like make a dent in that. Hopefully that's the goal. But like, it's just, again, just a continued journey on trying to make the proposition and the solution as good as it can be.
Yeah, cool. I love that. So let's dive on to your podcast in a bit of a short note. Like, what was we've dived into like the vision, right? But what's the future vision? Like, where are you looking to take this? Because again, everything's sort of aligned. Everything's sort of happened in your life, you know, as it should. You know, you've just took risks. You've done whatever you thought a good idea would be.
Yeah.
You've tested and learned. You're in a position now. You've got a great platform. What's next?
I'm honest. I don't look like major far ahead.
Yeah.
Because so much can change. Like, I did like a quarter review like yesterday, and like so much can happen in 3 months.
Yeah. So much happened in 3 days.
So I obviously it's important to look ahead. I have like key goals around like the business and these things, but in terms of like the podcast, if I'm honest, if we're to look 12 months ahead, what I've really tried to improve on this year is just making it as like tangible and as like useful as possible. Because there's so many podcasts out there now, just in general. And I think if anyone, I feel like people are becoming more and more cutthroat with their time. Yeah. At least I am anyway. Like, if I start listening to a podcast and I think it's shit, I'm turning it off. So for me, I've really tried to double down on making sure that if anyone gives us 45, 50 minutes, that they walk away from listening to that going, there's some real tangible things that I can consider taking into my day-to-day as a recruiter or maybe into my business. So that's what I really tried to improve on this year. And that's like shown in like the amount of people that listen to it and how much it's grown. So going into next year, I think it's just like more of the same, if I'm honest. I think I just want it to become like the place that recruiters go to if they want to learn how to get better, basically. And then, you know, for business owners to learn how they can continue growing their businesses. So if I'm honest, like more of the same, gonna have like live events again. I think for me, it's more about just the marginal gains, if I'm honest. The majority of people that listen to it in the UK definitely like the idea of, you know, growing the amount of people that listen to it internationally. But for me, it's just continuing to level up the quality of the conversations, for my interviewing skills to get better and better, to get better and better people on, to ask them better questions. That's just all I'm thinking about.
You're really data driven as well around the podcast, which is good, and it's something that I'll obviously move towards as I continue to grow it. But like, talk to me a bit about them numbers as well, like, because I've seen.
That's only been like a more recent thing, because I have sponsors that I have partners that I work with.
Yeah. So it's
that's like a revenue stream for us. So yeah, like I've recently put together our like partnership like deck where we want to work with two companies, you know, help them get in front of their target audience, help them, you know, acquire customers through our channels. So yeah, like in the last 12 months, basically the way that we broke it down. So in the last 12 months, we like basically reached around like 1 million people, right? So the way that's broken that down in terms of like listenership and viewership. So we have obviously the podcast channels, like the Spotify, all that. So I think around like 250,000 people listened to the podcast in the last 12 months.
Wow.
Then on YouTube, again, that was like another 200,000 people. And then we have a TikTok channel just for the podcast that reached around 600,000 people. So that's just that's just podcast clips or like the podcast episodes. Yeah. And then we have like a good amount of followers across the thing, across the different like channels. So mapped all that out, and then obviously we then, you know, produce these different clips like you do. So then, you know, there's a measurement on there. Like we easily reach like 100,000 people a week. Like those previous numbers, that doesn't involve LinkedIn. So, you know, we're reaching at least 50 to 100,000 people a week on LinkedIn with the podcast clips. Do you know what I mean?
Just alone, yeah.
So we can get it in front of a lot. We can get, you know, we reach a lot of people with the pod, but I only get those numbers for that. But then the only thing I look at, if I'm honest, mate, is just like the number of people that download it each month, because I think that's reflective of like, are more people sharing it, are more people listen to it, and is that going in the right direction?
Yeah.
I'm not like I only look at it to see like, is it going in the right way? And if we have had a spike, why is that? Like, why did more people listen to that episode and ask those questions?
Yeah.
That's all. And that's what drove the... I know this space is a bit different, which I really rate. That this isn't what I do as much of. Like, there's pros and cons, right? But I think people have different reasons why they listen to certain things, right? So, like, for me, whenever we've had, like, a big spike, it's been when it was really tangible. So, like, that's what I ended up leaning into this year, is, like, when we got big spikes, it was because people walked away with actual stuff that they can use in their day-to-day.
Yeah.
Cold call examples, how they set up a job briefing call, like real tangible stuff. And then I think that drives people sharing it. Callum, you have to listen to this. It was really good on that. Makes you listen. Do you know what I mean?
And like, do you know what I love? So like TikTok, like honestly, if you asked me that last year, I hated it. I just thought it was people just doing silly dances. But like people like yourself and my market woman rolling my clips on there now, like the views are unreal. Like the you know the little arrow at the bottom showing how many shares you get and stuff like that. Like I hope they're not just all my mates, but but it seems to get a lot of engagement and attraction. Like I honestly just thought it was like 12-year-old kids on.
Yeah, but TikTok's carnage, bro. Like the comment section is so toxic, mate.
Yeah,
the comment section is like savage. Like it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the faint. It's so funny because we'll post the same clip on TikTok, on LinkedIn, And like YouTube or whatever, and the comments entirely different.
Completely
Like
different.
TikTok is like, go and die. This is absolute bollocks. Like this is shit.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Like oh my god. Like just take the piss out of how the person looks. Like horrible. Like just horrible. And like the thing what I just find hilarious about is like
The names.
the names. Do you know what I mean? It's just like that. You're hidden
Damn the
behind.
Man 9000.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, there's no. You're like just saying something horrible, and you just know no one like knows who you are. I just think that's it's just
keyboard warriors.
rats,
aren't they?
mate. But then like the same clip, LinkedIn, love this, like great tip. So it's funny. It brings a lot of entertainment. But it's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, but again, it comes in the context of the clip, because we were talking before about like watching that. If someone commits to 40, 50 minutes of the podcast and can take something tangible away, like you've done a good job. Like I'm not gonna lie, I probably watched a handful of my tool for information are podcasts, but they are podcast clips.
Yeah,
Like very few.
like short and sharp.
Yeah, short and sharp, and then it's about getting the right context in that clip as well. But yeah, just sort of like a question around like when you watch a podcast, is it the whole thing?
When I listen to podcasts.
Yeah. When you listen to a podcast,
It depends. Like if I'm engaged, then yeah.
And
To be fair, I'm like a visual person. So like
Same.
I have like YouTube Premium.
Yeah.
So I like watching
Whilst
YouTubes.
listening.
I might listen to it, but then when I can like watch it, I'll like get it up and then look at it.
Yeah.
That's how I like to.
Well, this is why I made this visual.
Yeah.
I think visual podcasts are massive, because you've got the option to download it on Spotify, you've got the option to download it on Apple Podcasts, whatever you need.
Yeah,
to
but
do.
yeah, normally it depends on how good the conversation is.
Yeah,
Like, if the
of course.
conversation is good, then it will keep me. If it's not,
Yeah, and I think them clips. So don't get me wrong. Like I have clicked onto a podcast, but normally through the attraction of a clip.
right.
Like that's where the initial engagement comes from, because I'm going to check that out, and then you do a quick YouTube.
Yeah, that's
search
why
and
the
then-
clips are important.
They are
but
so
it's like you
important.
you have to get good at. It is a skill to get good at highlighting the right bits.
Yeah, no, I agree. Talk to me about like, it might be hard to do this, but like one of your favorite episodes and why. How many have you done, by the way, just for context?
Uh-huh.
How many have you done?
Done over like 400.
That's what I mean. Like, how are you gonna shortlist that? Could you even think of maybe 3?
No, I'll say a recent one.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if you saw a clip from it. It went like crazy on TikTok. But Sophie, I'm gonna butcher her surname. She works for 2B Talent. Sophie Niven, I think.
Yeah.
Don't know if you know that is.
No.
Yeah, Sophie Niven.
Shout
So
out
that-
Sophie though.
So yeah, shout out Sophie. Like she was just mega, mate.
Yeah.
Like I just love. So she's local to here.
Sure, she might have requested me before actually, but go on, carry on.
Maybe yeah. So she's just mega. Like why I love that one was if you listen to that podcast episode, you
That
will.
one?
Yeah,
Yeah, she literally requested to follow me today.
yeah. So if
Shout
you
out
listen,
Sophie.
if you listen to that podcast episode,
Yeah.
like, and you work in recruitment, you will leave that episode going, let's fucking go. Like I'm pumped.
Energy.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
she
yeah, yeah.
just her energy is infectious.
Principal
She has such a
consideration.
positive
Yeah, yeah.
mindset, and I just love that. I just love being around people like that. I love it when people are committed to choosing to be positive, to like choosing to be that. So yeah, like that was a recent one which I really enjoyed. We had a really good rapport. Like it was like just good energy, good
Yeah.
vibes.
Go and watch it, guys, if you're not already. I'll leave it there. So look, just like as we sort of come to like the last 10 minutes or so on this now, there's something that obviously we wanted to sort of do on the pod, which we discussed quite briefly, which was 3 common habits of top billers and performers, and also 3 common traits of top billers and performers. So we both actually don't know each other's answers, but I mean, I'll sort of start off in terms of like common habits on top billers and performers. For me, the first one was structure. I think top billers and performers, a habit has to be that structure. So repeatable and efficient processes, that like sort of machine-like process. For me, I've seen it around the office. That, you know, it goes a long way, and I think, you know, the consistency around that as well.
Yeah.
I think something which is really important is the outputs of your performance not being wavered by your feelings or emotions. The ability to leave, and I know it's so hard, right?
Yeah.
I'm probably not an individual who can do that, but for your output to not fluctuate on how you feel, and you to still go in there and win the day.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
it's
hard.
machine-like, it's robotic, but
Yeah.
but you find a lot of high-performing top billers. That's one of the key habits.
Okay, nice. So I think I said this when we spoke about this, but like first one I put down is like market mapping.
Yeah.
That is like something every single top performing recruiter I've ever interviewed, when we dig into it, they are religious with it. They are every single day, every single week looking at who's hiring, who's not, who's the new company that's just got investment. They're they're always building this like visual picture of who do I need to be speaking to, who are the companies that I need to know about, and they're like really committed to understanding the market dynamics in their sort of ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first one I've written down in terms of like one of the habits. Absolutely market mapping.
Yeah. 100%. No, I agree with that. 100%. I mean, that's something I'm doing right now, right? So I'm building a market currently as we speak, and it's something completely new to me. I actually watched one of your podcasts on how to build a market. I think it was quite an old one, and it was interesting to hear like the structural to that, and like really understanding the niche roles, actually the geographical areas, you know, who the competitors are, trying to split up who your prospective client's going to be, and then who the headhunting ground's going to be.
Yeah.
And like having them two different sections there, and then sort of breaking down in terms of like, okay, well that client works in the US, but that client works in the UK. I know their average margins are higher in the US, and I, you know, and just like really dissecting everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, so market mapping, that's a big thing. And the next one for me, common habit, I think we mentioned it before, it is that relentless learning. It is just like that constantly, that constant adaptation to yourself, upskilling everything, you know, knowing that at the end of the day, like this isn't a job where you're qualified for. Like we are sort of all unskilled professionals that, you know, we just have to constantly keep learning, and things change constantly. Being able to adapt and knowing that you're in this if you're in recruitment, right, you've got to be in it for the long game. And I think that you need to be committed to learn and actually give yourself time. It goes back to what we were saying about Hector, right? Like, you know, that you're if you want to be good at what if you want to be good at what you're doing, you have to sort of put aside that time to learn.
Yeah, I haven't I would say more top performers, top billers, although they'll be described as people that are selfish, that have an ego. I actually feel that more people have humility and like are always open to learning.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to be open to learning if you think you know it all and you think you've like completed recruitment.
Yeah.
But I think I'd say 90% of top performers that I've ever met or interviewed, they are so hungry to learn. They're always open to learn. That's definitely something that top performers have a habit around for sure.
Yeah, it's almost like that again, that obsessive trait. That like, you know, I think it's looked in a bad light, isn't it? The word obsession, but to me, I don't think it is. You know, an obsession which is healthy around learning. That's nothing but good stuff.
I think there's nothing wrong with being obsessed on wanting to like get better.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
My second one was self-reflection. So this might look differently. It could be daily, could be weekly, could be monthly, quarterly, but top performing recruiters make space to understand and think about, what am I doing well? What am I not doing so well? What could I be doing better? What could I improve on? What's working right now? What isn't? For me personally, that's what I found. Like, I think that is a really important habit to try and bake into your working weeks, your working months. I think, like you're saying, it does change a lot. So simply having the mindset of speccing in candidates has always worked for me, so I'm just going to do more of that and I'll get the outcomes that I want. Great recruiters don't think like that. They take a step back and they think about, why aren't candidate specs being as effective right now? Why are sending video messages, why is that working more? And like, they make the space to think about what is working right now.
Yeah.
Personally, that's definitely something that I picked up on.
Yeah. And it is, again, just goes back to that understanding your own process and understanding yourself. No, 100% agree on that. My last one on habits is super fast communicating. I know it sounds really, really simple, but like, you know, in my opinion, top performers and top billers, they get shit done quickly. They don't sit on things.
Yeah.
Like they don't like
have urgency.
They have urgency. They have almost that like they know people are dependent on them. It's like, okay, this person needs that feedback. I'll do it now. You know, like I know there's so many other recruiters out there who probably like, it might be a no and they sit and wait. It's like, no, tell them no and move on. You know, it's sort of like military. And I think that's a very crucial habit. They get shit done quick, and they're super fast at communicating, whether it's positive or negative.
My final one was I put asking commercial questions, not just recruitment questions.
Ooh.
So what I mean by that is, I think the best recruiters don't become like laser focused on Callum's got a job, tell me about what skills you need, what's really important. They'll do that, but then they're also willing to go, Callum, why are you hiring for this person? What happens if you don't hire this person? Like, what's the objective of hiring this person? What are you hoping it can do for the business? Like, if we don't hire this person, what negative impact is it going to have on the business? And I think the best recruiters have that commercial acumen, and they try and understand the wider problems that by them finding X person or people, what that solves for that business. So for me, I think, great recruiters don't get so like have the visors on and just talk about the job at hand, the brief, all of that. They're really willing to go, let's talk about this, but also what I really want to understand here is, how do we get to this point? Like, why are you hiring this person? What happens if you don't? Like, tell me more about the wider plan here. Like, where's this business going?
What's the infrastructure?
Yeah, they ask those commercial questions, and I really like that as well. And that's what I love about recruitment. Great recruiters get into those rooms with those conversations.
Yeah.
And I think that also is a switch for people. Like, when you really understand the problems that you solve for your clients, it should get you even more excited about what you do.
Yeah.
Like, it isn't just about putting bums on seats. That's fine, you can do that, but you're most likely always going to do ones and twos.
Yeah.
But the top performing recruiters, they increase their client spend with them. And one of the best ways that you can do that is by really understanding and being willing to, be curious and ask those questions around the actual business as a whole, like, and their problems, and understand them.
And I've talked about this in another podcast, but that's the latter end of our title, isn't it? Recruitment consultant. It's that consultiveness, that approach of being a partner rather than just thinking about everything being transactional. Like, my best clients that I've got, one, good relationships, and two, a very good track record of them spending with me, it is because I understand the vision of the business, the infrastructure, why they need certain mission critical hires, and what desk, and why is that person, that they literally tell me, like, openly and honestly, like, this person's leaving because of this, but we need help on this, we need help on that. And it's like, it's not just about putting bums on seats, like you said. It's actually becoming like a second addition to their business. Like, some clients like will openly say, like, I couldn't really grow without Callum's help. Like, I've took like startup companies to like 10 heads within 3 to 4 months organically. Like, and that's just due to literally understanding and dissecting their vision as a business, even to them as a person. Like, just talk to me, like, why have you founded the business?
Exactly, you're asking those questions, right?
Yeah.
The best soundbite, I've quoted this before, but one of our most listened to podcasts, she was on the panel for our Manchester Live podcast event this year, Amber Penrose.
Yeah, she's amazing at BD, isn't she?
Yeah, she's mega. So, like, the perfect soundbite that she shared on a training session that we did was what made her go from a 350, 400 grand biller to a 800, 900 grand biller. Well, she stopped chasing vacancies and she only chased problems.
And then became a solution.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, not only just chasing the vacancy, but you're chasing the problems, as in, i.e. what you're talking about. Like, okay, so if you don't, like, what happens if you don't hire this person as you're growing? Like, how your investors are going to feel about that? Yeah, I've got the pressures that, like, they've invested in me. I need to be growing the team. Like, whatever it may be, we're not going to be able to deliver for this client. It's a huge client for us. It's actually 80% of our revenue. If we don't have someone in working on the jobs, whatever it may be, like, chasing problems and understanding the problems that you're solving by the people that you're providing them with, and the solutions that you're providing them with.
Love that. It's bang on as well. It's bang on. Did you do 3 common traits as well, or just habits?
I did do traits, yeah. If you want to do that.
Cool. Happy days. I was thinking it's not just me. So my first trait of a top billing performer was actually information storage, like the ability to have in-depth market knowledge in your vertical.
Nice.
And like, actually, because ultimately, information is value, right? Information is power, so to speak. And value through information, your clients and candidates will literally just fall in your lap. Like, once you really understand your niche specialist vertical, and it's hard, right? As a rec to rec, you know, I'm not in the trenches with them, so it's like I'm literally having to learn. My candidates on my ears and my eyes in the market, so all I've got to do is just do very, very good question angling, and that's what I'd say the first
Yeah, I love that.
trait is.
First one I put, I mean, we've spoken about it in the conversation, but I put personal responsibility. That's like a big one for me.
Yeah.
Like, I think you will not survive in recruitment if it's always the client's fault and it's the candidate's fault.
Yeah.
You can only influence control so much, but again, back to, you know, where you point the finger is where you give the power. Top performers point the finger themselves.
Yeah.
And they take personal responsibility.
Yeah. No, they do. That was actually probably my last one, but it was more worded differently, which I'll go to that one now because it ties in nicely. It was just the honesty aspect of it, like knowing when to say no where needed, but then also like giving correct feedback, being transparent, but then holding yourself accountable. Like there's no excuses. Like there is no excuses. So I'm glad we both got the same one.
Yeah, nice, love that.
Bang on.
My other one was humility. I think personally, I know people like to view recruiters as ego, and I think we all know people that do have big egos in recruiters. But most of the top performers that I've met have humility. It's why they're willing to learn from other people. It's why they're hungry to learn. It's because they do have humility. That's what I feel.
That ties into a bit of self-doubt, do you think?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I do think
I see them two as the same personally. I think I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I personally would see that, which again, if it's utilised in the correct way, that can be a really big driving force for success.
I just think, like, let's be honest, a lot of people in recruitment haven't had things handed to them. So I think a lot of people do have humility, are willing to stay grounded, even though, you know, their pay has gone from wherever it was to 6 figures or whatever. Yes, you know, some people like the flashy things, some people, you know, like the odd flex, but overall, I'd say these people, you know, are like do stay grounded, and
Humble.
they stay humble. That for me, that's what I feel like personally, and the reason for that is because when you've been in the game long enough, like, you stay in the middle. Like, you don't get too high when you just close that 50 grand deal. You don't get too low when someone rejects your offer. Like, when you've been doing it for a long period of time, you just know, like, you know, you stay humble. You don't get too high, you don't get too low.
Yeah.
So I think the humility, remembering where you came from, remembering how difficult it is, you know, being willing to learn from other people. You have to be humble. They stay humble.
Yeah, love that. No, yeah, 100% stay.
But at the same time, you know, I'm sure, you know, we'll all know about it when the top performers they'll say, of course, we're competitive, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll have those moments. But overall, if we were to look at a long period of time, you'd probably describe them as humble.
Yeah, especially like it's a long game. It is a long game. Recruitment is a long career, and if you want to do well, it actually ties into my next top trait of a top billing performer. It is just relationships. Like, you know, some of the candidates I place now were from relationships I built, you know, over a year ago.
Yeah.
And I've spoke to a director the other day, and he went, "Yeah, I just placed a candidate who, you know, I've been friends with for 15 years. And, you know, I approached that person just wanting to literally build that relationship, knowing that further down the line, it would come back to me."
Yeah.
And I think, relationship skills, like, ties into just one of the most simple traits and almost a habit as well of a good, solid recruiter is just listening, like literally just solid listening skills. And then that actually, you know, puts you onto the next thing, which is ties into it, is question angling, because you know, you can be good at listening, but if you're not asking the right questions, you're not getting the information you need.
My final one was curiosity.
Yeah, I love that. Genuine curiosity as well.
Yeah, like, you have to, you got to ask, like, you got to be curious about. You got to dig deeper. You got to ask. Like, great recruiters aren't order takers. Great recruiters don't take things at face value.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that, Callum. Why is that important to you? Like, why is that important to the business? Like, they ask those questions. They're curious because they want to find out. But like, they have curiosity.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. But I think, like, sometimes curiosity, some people don't naturally have a curious manner. Like, they don't actually. So sometimes people have to. I mean, I've always been a curious person, but, like, I've seen it, you know, around other recruiters where they sort of have to actually teach themselves to ask that extra question. Like, you know, on a call, I always tell myself, Like I used to get pissed off because I used to like be on a call and then go, oh, I should have asked that. Now I make sure I'm asking probably at times too many questions, so they go, right, I've got another call in a minute. Like let's finish this off when we get feedback tomorrow on that interview or whatever it may be. Like I always make sure I ask that extra question, and that comes from curiosity.
I think what's actually often missed, particularly on like the client side, is one of the best ways that you can showcase your credibility as a recruiter is by the questions that you ask.
Yeah.
And like a good sign of that is when someone goes, "Great question, Callum. Let me tell you about that." Yeah. That's a great like just signal and sign, because they won't be saying that if it's the same old repeat gurgitated stuff of like, yeah, what's the salary for this one? What are the skills that you need? Like whatever the questions are. But brief, like, do you know what I mean? So I think that's one of the best ways that you can demonstrate credibility is by the questions that you ask.
Yeah, good question angling. I love that.
Great question, Callum. And
they'll tell you as well.
Yeah, like, that's a really good thing to like hear.
Yeah, and then you've got what you need. Love that. Right, we're finishing off, guys. Hishem Azzouz, everyone.
Let's go.
Let's go.